Hello, once again, and welcome back to the Side Quest Sages podcast. My name is Luke Tatum, the sage of 90s techno.
And I'm Corey Sins, the sage of unpaid parking tickets.
I like that a lot. I like that. Welcome back, everybody. We are so glad that you are here. This is episode number, what are we on? 11 of our Chrono Trigger series. We expect, as of my speaking these words, to have 12 total episodes. We are almost at the end of the game. If for some reason you are on this episode and this is your first one, please do not listen ahead. The very first thing I'm going to say today is going to be a heavy spoiler. So please do not watch this. Stop right now. This is your last chance. Okay. Actually, there's one more thing I have to do before we get into the spoiler, but still, click off the video. We need to talk about what is coming next. Okay, so we're going to finish talking about character side quests. We're going to talk about the major decision that you kind of make as a player here, whether or not to do a particular thing. And we're probably going to talk even about the Black Omen a little bit today, depending on how much progress we make on everything else. But then we are going to be done with this soon. And so the next game, this is subject to a public vote. If you join our Patreon for free. Hey guys, Luke here. I am working on editing this episode, and I just wanted to say I'm trimming out a section at the beginning where I'm talking about voting for the next game on Patreon. So what is correct is you can sign up for a free account over at Patreon. You can follow our page for free, and that will give you voting rights. You can choose to vote in all future next game that we play polls and potentially some other polls in the future. What is incorrect is that there is still any time left. Somehow in my head, I had the wrong timeline. And so I'm saying how there's going to be like 3 days left to vote for the next game. That is not true. The vote is over right now before this episode is even done being edited. The vote is over. So the next game is going to be Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance. We will likely do Golden Sun and Golden Sun 2, The Lost Age, probably together. They're both short-ish games, and they kind of go together. But anyway, so that's already happened, but still join the Patreon as a free member so you can vote in future votes. And if you are a paid member, you will get to help select what games are available to vote on. So like, here's 4 games to choose from. Well, which 4 games are on the list? That is what paid members get to help control, as well as other cool benefits. So go check it out. All right, back to the episode. Thank you. Anything else bookkeeping wise? What do we need to say here? I'm kind of. I think that's it.
Around the corner. Don't forget to wash your hands.
If you need to validate your parking, I'm so sorry we don't do that here. All right, let's grab your Kavfifi and let's hop to it. So again, spoiler warning, this is it. Literally, it's your last option to click off the video. We are going to cover Chapter 24, The Time Egg, and Chapter 25, The Fated Hour today. There is only one chapter after that, which is called Dream's End, and that is the end of the game. So right at the end of the last episode, we talked to Magus, and he basically says, do you want to fight me? Yes or no. He either joins your party or does not. Whether you fight him and win, or you say no and walk away, that's your decision. You can complete the game either way. I think we both chose to have Magus in our party. He's pretty cool. Some interesting stuff with him. We'll talk about that perhaps. But either way, whether he dies or doesn't, he is going to suggest that there may be a way to save Chrono's life. Chrono gave his life to stop Lavos and allow everyone else to escape. And, maybe we can change the past yet again. Although the past is kind of a relative term, I guess. And so he says, we need to go talk to Gaspar at the end of time, the guru of time. And I don't remember exactly when this happens, what the sequence of events is, but the Black Omen appears. Basically, the Ocean Palace, the last place that we spent all that time going through, the place where Chrono died, lifts out of the sea and becomes a floating, non-temporally bound, shrine to Lavos, basically. It is in all time zones, except, is it in 65 million? I forget.
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay. So it's
It's
from that
just
point forward. It
one
just stays there.
612,000 BC.
Yeah. There's even an NPC in one of the villages that we're going to get to later that like looks out and he's like, "Ah, the Black Omen looks especially beautiful today. Today's going to be a great day," you know. And it's like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah,
How do you
there's
know what that thing's called?
well, I think there's lots of little like hints on different places, especially like the Medina village starts to worship it, and they
Oh,
they have a term for it as well.
okay. I see. I didn't even pick that up. I don't think I knew that. So that's super cool. Now there's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to get to, and so this episode will be a little fast paced, I think. Um, but we're going to spend as much time as we need to on stuff. The first thing is to decide, you as a player, are you going to revive Chrono? Now, Chrono is super overpowered. Like, he's really, really strong, especially if you give him like capsules and stuff. You know, if you don't revive Chrono, your only option for light magic or lightning magic is Robo. Robo's lasers count as light damage, but he's kind of like unique in this way, or semi-unique is not a thing. Unique is an absolute. But, you kind of, if you want to do major light damage, like with Luminaire and stuff, like you got to have
It's
Chrono in your
so good.
party. It's so good. It's so good. And we're going to talk a lot about that actually in particular. So Gaspar, he will play a song. He's like, let me honor him with a song. I call it Memories of Chrono. And then there's a little song that plays. It's very sweet. And I believe that's the music box theme that kind of is the main theme of the game, or the intro
I
cinematic
think
kind of
so.
thing. It's cool, and they use Chrono's theme to great effect. We're going to hear it again a couple of spots towards the end of the game. It's pretty cool. But um, oh, you know what? Actually, that is Marl's theme song. I have a note
You're
about
right.
this.
Yeah.
It is Marl's theme song. And so Marl's like music is Memories of Chrono. It's not called that on the soundtrack, but it's just kind of an interesting little way that that's done. So he suggests that you use this thing called the time egg. He says, to break's death hold over one you hold dearer still. You are not the first to wish such a thing, nor will you be the last. Chrono must be happy indeed knowing such dear friends as you. And so we get this item, the time egg, and in order to hatch it, we are told that the one who crafted the wings of time, the epoch, our time machine that we use all the time now, the greatest invention since sliced bread in the world of Chrono Trigger, um, that is the way. We got to go talk to the guy who invented that. Now he's dead, because or in a sort of death, right? Because he's in 2300 AD. He's gone crazy and passed away. But we still have the blue raspberry guy that we can go talk
He's
to. So
programmed
he,
somehow.
who knows? This is soft sci-fi. It doesn't explain everything. I don't know. There's no specific mechanism.
I don't need him to explain it. It's fine. I get it. Probably
It's
scratch his back in the right way and digitalize that in it somehow.
you found Balthazar's scratching spot. um, So let's see. What else do I want to say about this? The Chrono Trigger, which is another name for this device called the Time Egg. So the Time Egg slash the Chrono Trigger.
Said it.
Uh, it's the name of the thing. The Chrono Trigger represents potential. Results require action. As long as you keep Chrono in your heart and pursue what you seek, the results should follow, but I can make no guarantees. And, it's kind of like a reveal, but not a reveal that this is the guru of time. Like if you've been talking to NPCs, you already know this, but okay. So we go off to find Balthazar, and I'm curious to know how this played out for you, right? So you go talk to the new tells you that you need an identical replica of the person that you want to reincarnate or revive. And I think he gives you a pretty heavy-handed hint, like there's a fair somewhere or something. But what
Good.
was your experience figuring out what to do here?
I immediately knew it was like the tent for that mysterious game that I did in the beginning,
Yeah.
because there wasn't anything else that I could imagine. I did go and fight Gatto a couple times just because I love the music. It's fun. His swagger is always something that's just like kind of fun. So, but yeah, so I went there to get the simulacrum of Chrono. What I
Okay.
forget what they call it, the the
The
body,
doll or
the
whatever,
doll. Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a term for it, but
A full-size plushie replica of your loved one for
yeah, I got a
40
squishmallow
silver
Chrono.
points. Yeah.
I imagine like he's like a carny or something, and we like threw a ball, knocked down the little milk bottles, and then from the top, oh, here we go. Here's your Chrono. Are you sure you want the Chrono?
To get ready for the fair, Norstein Beckler, that's the name of the tent for anyone that wanted a refresher on this. Um, they actually did a census and found what every person looks like so they could prepare a plushie just in case they won, right? And so this is the way that you really put on a show for the Millennial Fair. You find every possible human that could have showed up.
Frog was really adamant that I picked the Cyrus one, but
Hey, you talked about Gato and Gato's theme and stuff. And so I do want to just put another quick shout out, a little aside here. On the Patreon, I did a little write up about some remixes and arrangements and stuff of the amazing music in this game. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, you're a big video game music nerd as we are, then go check that out. It's a free post. You don't have to even be a member. You can just click over to it. If I remember, I'll link it in the description. But it's fun. And there is a song called Team Gato, which is like, imagine if you went to a bar and there was a band and all they knew how to play was arrangements of Gato's theme. That's the setup for that song. So
I didn't
um,
get to listen to that one. I'm excited to try that.
it is I mean, it's old and it's whatever, but it is so funny. I die laughing. So, okay. So you go get the doll for 40 silver points, which is a steal, to be honest. I mean, these things are pretty easy to come by. So
You
you
had to
go to
do like the
Chrono's house.
Macarena to like do. You had to like raise the arms and laugh and
Dude, I love how silly the Millennial Fair is and all that stuff. Like it's just a fun game. And Mitsuda, the composer, right? He loves to do like world inspired music. He likes to pull instruments from other parts of the world and stuff. And so from that aspect too. It's got such a fun vibe, a fun energy. Um, Now you go to Chrono's house. For whatever reason, they deliver the doll to Chrono's house instead of just giving it to you. And so you have to go pick it up. And of course, Chrono's mother is worried about him and is in his room. And so you have to go steal this full size replica of Chrono from the room from right under her nose. And you know, she'll be I guess it depends on who's in your party, but I had Luca with me at the time, and she can't quite bring herself to say what has happened. You're trying to fix it. Let's not even say anything, basically. So there's a rooster on my doorstep out here. If y'all are hearing that, uh, cool, awesome. I'm hearing it, but Balthazar's new
that
will.
one I heard.
Okay, great, great. The problem has returned. It's all right. They're way further away now, but they still like to come visit. So Balthazar's new will explain that he's going to try to help you, and he sends off like somehow these little stuffed. They're called Poyozo dolls. Piozo
Yes.
doll. He sends them off to go help you climb Death Peak. You need to climb Death Peak now that you have the replica of Chrono, and he actually will give you a request. And as far as I know, there's no like consequence for this, but he says, you know, this ends my message. Now I must ask you for a favor. This construct has reached the end of his final program. Please let him rest. The switch is on his stomach. You don't have to do that. You can just walk off.
All right.
But I did. I mean, thought it was a nice enough request. So, you flip the switch and he powers down.
Oh,
And if you interact with the new again, this is another, I just bring it up because of how interesting and weird and not explained the new are, right? So if you interact with it again after turning off the power, it says, time no longer appears to flow for this construct. I don't know. I don't know what that means. So we're off to Death Peak, unless you have anything else we would like to
Oh,
cover from that.
I really like that they have these characters, and we don't know what a lot of the monsters are. You know, they just are, and they don't need to explain them. And I think that's fun. You know, we've had so many different news that we've seen. I've attacked them. I've fought with them. You know, and but also scratched their backs, and they've taught me different things. And obviously, he's got me the guidance to get Chrono back. So just a I don't know. It's a fun little tidbit for character development there that there's just not much to it, but it's still impactful.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Now we're
moving on to
getting
the the next place was really interesting too. You said you know, we had to climb up and everything. It's windy, it's snowy, it's definitely
yeah,
a trial.
you it can definitely be really hard on the first screen, right? Because you have that very strong wind that picks up. And depending on how good you are with controls, or if you're using mouse and keyboard, or if you're using a controller, or if you're running or walking, if you toggle it one way or the other, like you have to run north, or I say north, up. You have to run up the peak whenever you are not experiencing super strong winds. And then when the wind picks up, you hide behind one of these little twiggy trees. It barely provides any cover. So if you're off to the right or off to the left just a little bit, it'll blow you off the mountain. And definitely recommend saving before you do this. It can be irritating. Thankfully, I didn't really have any trouble this time, but you know, you you fight the wind on the first screen, then you get to the next kind of stage, and you don't have to deal with that, thankfully. But there are Lavos spawn that are bosses that you fight along the way up this mountain. And so it looks just like Lavos, but it's kind of from a side profile. You kind of get his good side. And whatever. It's kind of fun. They're not super, super hard unless you're attacking the shell. So this is priming you for the final boss in some way. It's like, hey, by the way, you should probably just attack the head. It looks like a giant tick, if we haven't already said that. Um, the world parasite, you might say. And so they're small ticks, and you just hit the head. Um, you get to the top of Death Peak eventually. I didn't have any notes as we climb, really. But you get up to the top, and then Shala's pendant that you've been carrying with you will react with the time egg, and then the egg floats up and it shatters, and there's all these little sparkles that kind of go out from it, fragments of light, you might say, which I'm kind of making a Xenogears reference. Okay, so you're teleported to the moment Chrono died, and so it's like everybody's frozen in time. If you've played Sea of Stars, they kind of do this exact same thing at one point in that. So it's very much a nod to Chrono Trigger when they do this. No spoiler, I'm not telling you what happened, but there's like a frozen in time moment in that game. And so you swap the doll, the Chrono doll, with the original Chrono, and there's an eclipse of the sun, right? So the moon moves across and blocks out the sun, and it's all very cool and dramatic and very high, high contrast, I would say. Like I love how they did it. And then Chrono will appear at the base of this white tree, this I don't want to say white tree, but a tree that is covered in snow and stuff. And then he'll wake up at the base of the tree. I have a whole hell of a lot of things to say about this. Okay, and you probably do too. This is there are fan theories there. I mean, there's a lot of discussion we can have about this particular moment. But depending on who's with you, there's certain characters that are sort of the lead character. They take precedence over each other, to kind of make a comment or welcome Chrono back, depending on who you have. I assume that you had Marl with you. Do you have any notes of dialogue or anything that you want to say here?
So I had Frog and Marl and Robot. Robo, excuse me.
Yeah.
And um, I didn't have any dialogue written down. It was more of how I felt, being at the top of Death Peak before we do the swap.
Yeah.
We're in a frozen wasteland. It's silent. It really a lot of isolation. It really felt like um the trial that you have to complete to be worthy.
Yes.
In a way,
Yes.
you have to make a payment, and whatever that payment is, this was part of that. And then the mechanic, the swapping mechanic was, you always hear time travel, go back and save the life. And it really wasn't necessarily that they were bringing them back to life. They were taking them out of that moment
Yeah.
and preserving him, and just putting a placeholder in that and getting the hell out of there. And it's such a different way to do that. And um it it really keeps the integrity of the game, I feel like, because it's not a Deus Ex Machina. It's better than that. It's earned. It wasn't without risk. The story continues without that, even like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And so I guess I alluded to that and didn't actually finish the thought. But yeah, you don't have to do this. You can go finish the game. In fact, we talked about this forever ago. The very first time you get to the end of time, I mean, you're not going to have enough levels to do this, but you can fight Lavos right then and win the game if somehow you level up enough to do it, right? That would be silly, but you can. And so you can also fight Lavos right then and lose and get one of the endings, which is the bad ending, which is what I did. But, you know, you can win with or without Magus in your party, and you can win with or without Chrono in your party. And so there's what, seven party members, and so you don't even have to have two of them. It's crazy. Um, I just for the sake of dialogue and stuff, I think it's very iconic that Marl is the one that is there, because she will embrace Chrono under the tree when his eyes open and stuff. It's super, super cool. You've been kind of playing with some AI art and stuff like of that moment. It's really cool. I mean, it's a beautiful scene even on Super Nintendo graphics, right? I absolutely adore it. But Luca will do the same thing if she is in your party and Marl is not. And so Luca will say, um, you big dummy, you wouldn't believe what we had to go through for you. You mess up like that again, and you'll have to get yourself out of it. And that's kind of a fun little thing because Chrono and Luca are childhood friends, right? They have the longest relationship of any of the party members. Um, oh, and she'll also say, Luca will say, "We had such a terrible time without you." Marl was, and so then and even I. Hey, are you listening, Chrono? I really can't stand you. So she's going through it.
I do have some dialogue from Marl, I guess.
Okay, okay,
She's embracing him at the foot of the tree, hugging him and saying, a lot of things happen, Chrono, while you're away. First we dot 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 ellipsis, and then dot dot dot. After that, dot dot dot. So we but dot dot. It's just, yeah, that I think that's what kind of happened. But she's just reminiscing. Um she probably did not think that this was going to happen, and she thought I definitely have always kind of felt like she was definitely going to be the love interest, and that's definitely what's unfolded.
yeah.
And so this is kind of, um, in a way, a declaration of that in so many words, with a lot of ellipses.
Well, I mean, you've experienced what has happened as the player, right? And so it's like it's it's very sloppy dialogue writing, like in a movie, for example, to go, as you know, blah blah blah. They call it as you know dialogue, right? Like the reason that this dialogue is happening is to explain stuff to the viewer of the movie, right? And so it would be redundant at best for us to go through this whole recap of all the stuff that happened since we just did it, you know.
Right.
So that's a perfectly fine way. Like I didn't think
It's
anything of it at the time.
can read between the lines literally and piece it together.
Right. Right.
You know,
Um,
what mattered to me, I think, was just the embrace that they had.
yep. Yeah.
That you are back, and you know, this burden. I imagine being Marl and not having that rock of Chrono there
Right.
that's been there since the beginning. You know, that's how I couldn't, you know, bypass not saving him. It's like these people, these friends, these team members from all the different ages have come together, and the anchor point was Chrono, and he was the courage, the silent protagonist that punched through. We still need him. We can't,
Right.
you know.
Well, he kind of is like the this is a stupid thing to say, but he is the protagonist, right? Everybody's a protagonist in some sense. Like we talked about Magus being a tritagonist. You know, he's kind of the third place most important character or whatever. But everybody's, you know, it's the core team. We're following the story of this group of heroes, right, to accomplish the mission. But if Chrono didn't say, the pendant's still here. It reacts with the teleporter. I'm going in. We don't even have a story, right? It's like, well, the princess disappeared. Like, that's it. End of game. Unless Chrono had the guts and courage to go, you know, beam me up, Scotty. Let's go back to 600 AD, which you don't know at the time. But I do have one other version of this. So if you don't have Marl or Luca with you, Frog will be the primary. And I don't know how many variations there are. I didn't just play it over and over again. But um, Frog's version, he will just sort of, you know, be looking at Chrono. He doesn't hug Chrono, but he'll say, "You are blessed to be so loved by everyone. You lucky, lucky fool." And I really like that. That's all he says because you have to, like, Frog is a wonderful character, and I think we're going to talk a lot about this, but Chrono has kind of become the new Cyrus for Frog, right? Frog is not yet willing to be the guy, right? He's willing to go after Magus, and he's, you know, he's made major strides in his personal development, his personal story, but he's sort of also using Chrono as a crutch in a way, right? He's following the quest of Chrono, just like he was following the quest of Cyrus before. And so, you know, very, very meaningful to him to have his new, you know, anchoring person back. And I love that. I thought it was really, really cool.
I do have so one of the things I haven't maybe mentioned to our viewers is that I'm actually playing through Chrono Trigger a second time on the
Okay.
plus
Okay.
mode.
Yeah.
And just because I wanted to experience the game again with all the knowledge. There's so many different things I missed in the beginning because I'm still learning the lore, the geography and everything. And so with that in mind, I have done some of the extra endings. I'm the only thing I'll say is that there is an ending where Frog goes off on his own and fights Magus. He is he's brave. He found his place. Unfortunately, he does not beat Magus. And it's a really I think it's a really cool little tidbit, and I wanted to share that just because it tied so much to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's within him. It he has the courage to do that. He may not have the power to overcome that specific problem. You know, he wants revenge, and that may not be the way to get it. He would need, you know, he needed his friends, he needed his team to
Yeah.
support him and getting rid of. But you know, he may have been bringing it to a different you know, area too, of the I want to kill you because you killed my friend
Right.
instead
Right.
of, you know, bring to justice kind of thing. So there's differences, and maybe that's why he failed by himself because his mentality of that was I'm going to kill you instead of I need to bring you to justice. I need this to stop.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, the we're going to talk a lot about Magus and Frog and kind of the resolution. We both have finished the game at this point for this playthrough. I've also started a new game plus. I've done like one of the extra endings. We'll talk about that as we wrap this one up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there is one canon ending for the original version of this game, and then there is a new ending that was added to tie in better to Chrono Cross that you can only get by playing the game 2 times. And I've never seen that one, so I'll probably watch that if I don't have time to get that far. And we'll talk about it, but we're not going to give spoilers about Chrono Cross, so I don't know how much we really have to say. I know like one element of it. But anyway, um, yeah, Frog is such a great character. I think he's a fan favorite, but and we're about to talk about his side quests and stuff too here in a second. But as far as the resurrection scene, I feel like I would be uh, definitely not doing it justice if we didn't talk about some of the kind of interpretation of this and some of the symbolism and some of the visual cues and all this. So there is a very widespread sort of interpretation of this game is that it is very, very on the nose Christian theology. Okay. Chrono Trigger, Chrono, the character, whenever he uses Luminaire, and also whenever he is dying fighting Magus, or excuse me, fighting Lavos, he has this pose with his arms outstretched and whatnot. It looks just like a Jesus on the cross type position. Like you can't see me, but he's got his arms kind of upstretched and out to the sides, and he floats up into the air, and his legs kind of cross a little bit. And so it's like a Nazarene statue almost. And so there's that element to it. That is the position in which he is frozen when you go back to swap him out with the Chrono doll. I have a bunch of, screenshots and whatnot as well. But, there's that. And then, of course, we have the three wise men, which have the names of the three wise men from the Bible, right? And so, one of which gives you the time egg. I mean, it's like a gift of myrrh or something, right? It's a small, incense container type thing. I think that's what it is. It seems to be. It's not really explained what it is. But, it's these, they all give you gifts, and those gifts kind of play into this resurrection tale and whatnot. So that's definitely something. Also, he's the only human that has the light element of magic, which we talked about a moment ago. Yeah,
Which was I think was said was unique also in the games with some dialogue, if I remember correctly.
that I don't know. If anybody does remember that, please tell us, because I would love to have any little fragments and tidbits that help kind of
If
build this case.
if I remember correctly, frankincense and myrrh weren't just for putting in sensors and incense. It was, I think they were pivotal for food preservation, possibly.
That I believe is true. From
And
the
that could
recesses of my mind.
be,
Yep.
an egg,
True.
preserving the life
True.
of Chrono could kind of tie in a little bit. Um,
They talk about the egg representing potentiality, and the egg itself will hatch. But when you go actually do the thing, Shala's pendant, right? This source of power from the past, the distant past at the time when this happens, because you do this mission in 2300 AD, shatters the egg. The egg kind of just does nothing, and then it you know so happens that you get back to the time um, where Chrono dies. Now, the eclipse, though, this is something that I noticed as I was playing. You have this sort of stereotypical way in which the death and resurrection of Christ is portrayed, and that is like this large round stone that gets rolled in front of a portal where his body is, right? Right? And so what is that scene if not a large stone, the moon, blocking the light from the sun, right? And it's just
Temporarily.
it
Yeah, light is temporarily, overcome by shadow.
yes. And then it resumes, right? It lightens back up. And so it's like, what an interesting thing. Now, am I saying that every single time an eclipse is used in a game or a movie or a show, it's a reference to the resurrection of Christ? That's not what I'm saying. Okay. I am saying it seems to line up in this case, right? That is maybe a on the nose use of that. Um, so that's some of the ideas that I had there. Let's see. But I feel like that is the predominant theory, but then also you have some potential ties to like a Buddha figure, a Buddhist tale, because Chrono reappears at the base of this tree, right? That's something that I always hone in on. There's a lot of cool games that I like Zero Ranger, that have a lot of Buddhist sort of things in them. And so, the Buddha meditates under a tree for an extended period of time. I believe 49 days, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not brushed up on my Buddhism right now, but you know, that sort of, tie in the awakening, the achieving of enlightenment by an extended meditation under a tree and all these things. And then, and it's different trees. And I know that. Okay. But, but that, and then also the fact that the scene with Lavos, and every time that you fight Lavos, it's on this sort of floor of, you know, unfolding ripples of water. It's very like lotusy, kind of it's this serene water scene, kind of a lotus. It's not a lotus, there's not a flower there, but like it sort of kind of brings that imagery to my mind, even though it's not shown, if you know what I'm saying. So it's not as strong. Obviously, the Christian stuff is a stronger direct on the nose thing. I just think it's kind of like you have a lot of shared mythology between religions anyway. And yeah, there's some stuff there. You got any
I think there's
thoughts?
there's definitely something to your Lotus. I guess I interpreted the area where we fight Lavos as like a dream state,
Mm-hmm.
but with to your Lotus, I if I remember correctly again, lotuses are, they are on the floor of the water and they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So there is all that time that they are underwater, underground, not above the surface until they get that, and then they bloom. And I think that's we think of lotuses as a maybe like a growth cycle and things like that. Lavos had that. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so he just isn't the Lotus we would like. That's for
Well,
sure.
is this a triumph of Christianity over some other Eastern religion? Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the intent, of the writers, but since that's the domain of Lavos, this wave thing, perhaps I'm having an incorrect idea there. But I just love that there is a lot of conversation around this, and it's certainly something I did not pick up on the first time I played it. I was just like, oh my God, Chrono came back. It's so cool. He's back in my party. I didn't waste all those strength capsules for nothing, you know. Because the first time I played this was years and years and years ago, before I started to really think in terms of symbols.
I
So
would have played this game at face value and loved it,
yeah.
and then come back years later and been like,
Well, that's what this show is for, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, you can play a lot of great. You could play Near Automata at face value and really not pick that. I know you haven't played it, but man, there is a lot of stuff in that, right? There is a lot that you could dig into,
that may
or you
be a
could just
game
go,
to put
"Wow,
on the
cool
list.
game, super cool," and then just move on.
Um,
um,
I think
so
another thing about this time period, when we're talking about the resurrection and everything, again, it's another show of the power that Chrono's team uses in it. It's limited. It has it has the limitations. Um, Whereas you still have the Mammon machine, and by this time, the Queen is completely consumed. She's not the queen anymore. She's something else. She's a piece of Lavos at this point. You know, she's and we'll talk about that later. But again, it's that dichotomy of power of what is the proper how is power to be used. You know, you have to choose that, and this shows that if you use it in a reserved manner for good things, for accepting limits and things like that, and we can live peacefully with it, and or we could be subjugated to it.
Yeah, I mean, uh, Queen Zeal, right? Her whole thing is seeking immortality and all this. She is seeking to, siphon off enough power to get her wildest dreams fulfilled from the evil thing of Lavos. And I suppose you could make an argument that Lavos is doesn't have a will and isn't evil, but her ends are certainly evil and she's being corrupted by something. So I think perhaps using Zeal as a mirror, we can see that Lavos is indeed evil. I think that's certainly one way to look at it. But she is seeking that with all of all of her thoughts are directed towards the attainment of immortality, and yet the ones that actually do transcend death is the party of heroes that we're controlling.
Seeking it in the first place.
Right. It
Um,
happens to be something that we go towards, but it's not. We haven't spent the whole game trying to figure out how to not ever die, right? We spent the whole game trying to figure out how to save the future, right?
right.
So it's kind of an interesting thing.
It kind of reminds me of Knights of the Old Republic. I can't remember if it was one or two. And there's the scene where, if we're talking about Star Wars, we have the Sith and the Jedi.
Yep.
And one of the Twi'lek Sith teachers at the school is talking about how she originally became a Sith because she was a slave. She wanted to protect the slave people who were enslaved, wanted to get out of it herself. She killed the Hutt that was involved with her enslavement, and she joined the Sith to further that cause. That cause was to free slaves. Well, she got caught up on the hedonic treadmill of I need power for power's sake, and she admits in the dialogue that she's like, yeah, I can't do that anymore because I have to compete with all these other bastards who are doing the same thing. And I, in this situation with Queen Zeal, she's fighting herself essentially. She's already she doesn't have her kids anymore. She has eternal life. Great. You're sitting in your tower and you're living for thousands of years waiting for Lavos to come and destroy the world.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you
Yeah.
win.
Right. Good job. You won, but at what cost? And I love that. And I am very much a classical story enjoyer. Let me just say that, I guess. We have a lot of focus on the morally gray, every choice has a negative aspect kind of, Witcher 3 is this, the Witcher games in general, a lot of modern, especially Western RPGs are this way. And that's fine. I love The Witcher 3. I love a lot of Western RPGs. I grew up on Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and all this stuff. Okay, but the the clearly demarcated lines, the clear this is good, this is evil, which path are you going to choose? Not that we're given a evil ending where we join with Lavos and whatever. Like that's not an option. But it's on the nose in a way that helps you to inform your own actions in your own life, right? It's not, well, the world is just full of suffering, so I guess it's all kind of meaningless. Like this does not end nihilistically. Chrono Trigger is a very inspiring and hopeful game. I think we said that on episode 1. It's just really, really cool. And this moment that we're talking about with the resurrection is so cool because you go back to the end of time, you're just whisked back there. Gaspar is there. He has some dialogue, but it's like it plays the main Chrono Trigger theme, and you're like, oh my God, yeah, here we go. We're all back together. We're going to go rock and roll. We're going to save the world. right? It's good. It's a good feeling. And like I feel really bad if you don't get to feel good when something like that happens. You know what I mean? You need to lean in to some clearly demarcated good and evil sometimes. That's what I think. So Gaspar will help you.
Maybe that's a good topic on a show in the future is
Yeah,
talking about the shift away from black and white, you know, bad guys to all the well, he had a bad childhood and
right, right. E- e-
he just slipped off the road a little kind of thing.
Everything does not need to be a deconstruction of the archetypal version, right? It's okay to retell the hero's journey. You're going to have a really hard time if you try not to. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Uh, every story kind of ends up that way, or it doesn't really turn into anything, and it's boring. That's kind of what it is. But Gaspar, like this is the end of the pre-game stuff, the pre-show, if you will. The tailgate party is now, right? You can complete side quests or you can go straight for the final boss. We're going to complete side quests. Obviously, this is side quest sages, but we're now in side quest territory. There's nothing left to do in the main story other than go win. So he will, Gaspar, if you talk to him, will tell you hints of how to do stuff, and he'll give you the quests in a particular order to make sure that you get everything done, which is so awesome. It's not a checklist, it's not a menu. Go talk to Magus. Go, whatever. It's a it's just a guy who has some ideas because he lives at the end of time. Maybe you want to look into this. So you do those things. So we're going to go in that order. The first one on my list, we already did Fiona's Desert, right? So we've already kind of done Luca's quest. All of these kind of result in best in slot or very, very good equipment for the specific party member that's being talked to, or who the quest is concerned with. But we're going to start with Ozzy's Fort. So Ozzy's Fort is almost the same looking as the Fiend Lord's Keep, Magus's Keep. It's just one island over. So, for lack of a better idea, Ozzy just starts to redo exactly what was there before that didn't work the first time. And you walk in, Magus is with you. Ozzy's upset that he's been abandoned. And this is kind of a rehash. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on any of these quests unless there's some really great story thing that you want
Yeah,
to get into,
I think that's right.
But Flea, Slash, and Ozzy are all there again. So the rockers or the condiments have reunited. We get the Ozzy's in a pickle line again at one point. It was really, really funny. And you, let's see, I'm scanning my notes. Lots of little silly things. It's really funny. There's a room where there's a chest and there's like a blade falling down over and over.
Yeah.
And a little imp will like walk up because you ignore it because you're not dumb. So you walk right by, and then he's like, "What? You didn't go for the treasure? Oh my gosh!" And then so one of his own henchmen, a little blue imp, walks up and like gets killed by the blade, and then Ozzy runs away again. But in this room, I don't know if you even did this because I don't know how you would know. When you're looking at the door to leave this room, like if you're about to leave the room to go to the next room, don't go instead directly south or down on the screen. There's a hidden area and it has three really good pieces of equipment for Magus in there. It's like the Gloom Cape. What is it? Doom Scythe, Gloom Helm, and Gloom Cape. And there's also a magic capsule in there. So, super cool, something that's easy to miss. It's one of those little like, did you know if you go over here? Like you tell your friend on the, you know,
Oh man.
elementary school playground at recess. Did you get the thing? I heard from my buddy that you could do this. It's one of those. And so, whatever. You go and you fight Ozzy and Flea and Slash again, and you get this incredibly silly line. Ozzy pants, Flea bustier, Slasher 2. With these items combined, we're invincible. Get ready to witness true power. What are those items? Who knows? So they're pretty strong. They all have triple techs and stuff. You do that. Ozzy runs away again. You kill Flea and Slash. Ozzy runs away again. He encases himself in ice again.
It's
Um,
dropped.
this time, when you attack the switch to knock him through the floor, he's like, "Ha ha, I got you." And you fall through the floor. And then you're exactly one room behind. You go back right into the same room again. And you're like, hello, it's boss fight time again. You get into position to fight again. Some cat wanders into the room and switches the other switch, and then he falls, and that's the end of Ozzy. So it's so silly. Um, and that is
Fitting
the end of
end.
that. That was that
Fitting end.
quest. And so the main draw of that is to resolve Magus's kind of stuff with his mentor, Ozzy, and to get his equipment. On to 2300 AD, the origin of machines, aka the Genodome.
So I think just a note I had about Ozzy just
Yeah,
overall was
yeah,
just that it was the power vacuum. He had zero competency to do anything with that, and
right.
um, he's just it was a false leadership. Just he was a tool that Magus was using, and he was he was a tool afterwards.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, narratively, it's just kind of a fun, like the whole Ozzy thing is just kind of a fun side story. There's not a whole lot there. This next one, the Genodome, I like this a lot.
Yeah, this one.
So, Geno, real quick, etymology stuff. Geno is a masculine given name that has some debatable origins. So, possibly Greek, possibly Italian. No way to know which one they're referencing. But uh, commonly associated with the Greek word genos, meaning birth, race, noble lineage, that kind of stuff. You have the words genetics, genocide, genealogy that are all from this root. And so as a birthplace of the machines and whatnot, that's a very fitting name. You also have eugenios, which is another Greek word, means well-born or noble. And so it's kind of interesting. In Italian, you get the names Giovanni and Eugenio and things like that from this. There's also potentially like a Bulgarian or Slavic influence, but I think it's probably the Greek. There's a lot of Greek stuff. Prometheus, as we're about to talk about, Proto, a lot of things in the future are Greek. So I don't necessarily want to read every single little thing here, but basically we have a mother character, and then we discover a pink robot named Atropos. Where do you
This
want to
one.
start? How
This
do you want to
one.
get into
This
there?
one I knew. Atropos being one of the fates,
Hmm.
and specifically the one that cuts the cuts the lifeline basically. And
Yeah.
um, I thought that was interesting because you have her calling out to Prometheus,
Hmm.
Robo, and so that was I think that says a lot. Just like you were talking about the being the Genodome, they were really really smart with their namings, with their themes and all sorts of things. Even if we were talking about how maybe the overall um, thought of the game is a Messiah you know story in a way. Um, that doesn't mean that everything is related to that, and this is one of those times where I think it's really it brings into that Greek mythology that I really love. And
Yeah, I mean, you even more than me, right? Like I love just the etymology and kind of the origin of the words and stuff. That's a big thing for me. But I know you're big into Greek myth and all that. And I will say from the etymology angle, atropos means without turn. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, I mean, you think of cutting the thread and you think of her mission at at the beginning of this interaction is to stop Robo and to sever basically to sever the thread of fate of you trying to save the future and stuff, to keep things the
of
way that they
humans,
are.
yeah.
Yes.
They specifically trying to get rid of humans because we'll see in dialogue later that Mother Brain is saying we are inheriting the earth. You are obsolete.
Yes.
You are you are gone.
And that's, I mean, that's a tale as old as anything. People have been talking about machines replacing humans, The Matrix, whatever, Terminator, all this stuff
It's
like,
not
oh
even the
yeah.
first time in this game.
Yeah, right, right. We had Terminator on the nose references before.
That and the reptiles wanted to get rid of the
Yep,
humans, and
yep, that's
so
true.
it's
That's
just
true. It's
us versus them always.
a very repetitive, well, I don't want to say repetitive. It's used a lot. That's a common theme, as you say. So, yeah, the other two fates are Clotho and Lachesis. Very interesting. So,
Spinning, this one that spins the thread, and then the other that measures it.
yep, Lachesis measures. Yep, that's right. That's right. Very good. Pop quiz on Greek stuff. So,
At the end.
Mother Brain, kind of an interesting boss fight. It's not super hard or anything, but Mother Brain is most likely a reference to Metroid. The final boss of the first Metroid game is Mother Brain. It's a giant brain in a jar, kind of a thing, that controls a bunch of stuff nearby. So that's pretty interesting. You also kind of, talking about the Matrix and all that, the Matrix came out after this game, okay? But I am telling you, the Matrix got some of its script writing from this, for real, because there's this debate about, no, you're Prometheus, no, you're Robo, right? And then Robo says, my name is Robo. And it's kind of like the my name is Neo, and then, throwing Agent Smith into the ceiling and all that. And it's totally that. And again, I've said it twice, I think, in this podcast, but again, the multiple names, multiple ways that somebody's name could be expressed, multiple identities for the same character. You have R66Y, Robo, and Prometheus, all competing for what is Robo's character? Who is he? So,
I think you get to see again Robo and Atropos as being opposed to each other in different
mhm,
ways, because Robo's learned empathy. He's chosen stewardship of resources that weren't his own, humility and things like that. Whereas, Atropos is, she's got her programming. She won't be reasoned with, because it's just that's not me. That's not me. That's not it. I
right.
have to execute my function. This is my function. Um, so I guess Atropos has made her whole identity the extension or execution of that plan of humanity. So,
Yeah.
and
Pro-
Robo has thrown off all of that and become his own.
yes, yes. And, Prometheus, Robo, R66Y, he is again kind of a inversion of some of the expectations that you would have for these names. It's like Prometheus. I have a note here. Prometheus in Greek myth is a titan, and he's known for foresight, and his parents are Gaia and Oranos, so earth and the sky, right? And so in some versions of the tales, like he creates humans, Prometheus creates human beings, right? And so it's kind of funny that humans create him, whatnot. It's just like an interesting kind of inversion, reversal of some of these ideas. So there's also a lost child of the fates in some stories, Perdita, being protected by Prometheus. So it's kind of fun to think of Atropos and Prometheus maybe having, like they're robots, but like a child, like a union of the two characters, right? So yeah, who knows? Who knows? The the voice though of Mother Brain, as you're kind of going through, will say some things that's actually pretty important talking about Lavos. So she at one point says, this is before the boss fight, obviously. Listen well, flawed and fragile flesh spawn. Lavos' children will one day return to the stars and seek out new planets, new sources of sustenance. When that day comes, this planet will have its chance to heal, so long as there are no humans to interfere. We talked about this already, but we robots will take over and stuff. But that little bit of lore, there's not a lot of lore about Lavos. And so these little Lavos spawn and stuff, it's like that's kind of the modus operandi of the final boss, is to absorb what it wants from the Earth or whatever this planet is. I think we established it's not necessarily Earth, and then go off to another planet, or its spawn will go off to another planet to do the same thing. So, yeah, kind of interesting. And we get super awesome equipment for Robo. Robo will talk about how he's learned a great deal from human beings. I think it's super cool. Really, really cool little quest. Now, let's keep going. If you have time, let's keep going for just a little
Keep
bit.
going.
So,
Yeah, I got
al-
plenty.
also in 2300 AD, we can do the Sunstone quest. This is very heavily foreshadowed earlier because
This
lots of
one
people
was
talk
all
about it.
over the place.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It is all over the place. So there's this mountain called the Sun Temple that you can land. It's just a little island in 2300 AD. You can go in there. It's southwest of where the Black Omen is floating. And so the inside of this little, it's a mountain on the map. It doesn't look like a temple, but you go in and it looks just like the Ocean Palace. It's got the same kind of, tile set for that. And you fight this floating eye or orb called the Son of the Sun. And so it's this crazy, crazy thing. It's this orb eye thing, and then it has fires that spin around it. And they do a roulette spin. You have to figure out which one is the one that allows you to damage the middle piece. It's very difficult. Like, um, I if you don't know how to do it, you will probably die the first time you do this fight.
I remember. I think I did, and that's okay because I save often now.
Yeah, I mean it encourages you. This game is not super duper hard if you know what to do, right? But it encourages you to figure out what to do.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
exactly it. You have to experiment, and not every enemy has the rule book on how they're to be defeated, like we did in the beginning, where it's like you use your sword on the dragon. Nobody will do that
right.
because it's stupid. No,
It's so funny, but
um,
so good, right? It eases you into harder and harder, more creative boss types, And in fact, the very final boss, we'll talk about this next episode, but it is also an expectations subversion. It's like, cool, I'm going to show up and do this, and it doesn't work. That's not how that boss works. So, it's fun. One last little trick at the very end of the game.
I killed him. I was excited.
But so you do this, you beat the boss, and then there's a little glimmering thing. It's the moonstone. We've learned about this. If only we could expose the moonstone to sunlight for many millennia, it might be able to get enough sun energy to be the sunstone again.
How could we do that?
How could we
I'm only gonna
possibly do
live
that? If,
for maybe 80 years.
if only we had a time machine. So we go back to 65 million and we stick the sunstone in the sun shrine, same exact place, and then it's just a cave at that point. So it's really weird that like this place becomes a fully fashioned out shrine at some point in history. But anyway, I'm not going to worry too much about it. So
I did the hard work. I put it there. Everybody else to do everything else.
we go to 1000 AD to retrieve it for whatever reason, and it's not there. So the mayor of Poor, the extremely generous guy that we, you know, influenced the life of previously by giving the spice jerky to like his great grandmother or whatever, um, he gives it back to us. He's like, cool, yeah, you want it? Here. But I guess that's a way where you have to figure out if you want to do all the quests, you have to figure out that you have to give the jerky to the mother in the past so that he will be nice, so that he will want to give it to you. I've never done this the wrong way, so I don't know what dialogue might happen if like he's greedy still. But anyway, that's a little thing. You kind of
He's not
have to
even
already do
triggered.
that. Yeah, right. He might be like, "What are you talking about? I don't have anything." So
Except for my money.
that's right. You get it back, you put it back in the cave in 1000 AD, and then you go 1300 years more into the future, and then it's the Sunstone. I thought that was really funny. Like, it's not got any energy at all until the last 1300 years, right? Like, you got to get that last little bit, man, or it's not going to work. You need 65
Uh,
million 2300 years of sunlight. That's how much you need.
Minimum effective dose.
That's right.
Just needed it.
So yeah, man, gosh, it's a good thing that's how far our timeline goes in this game because that's what we need. So Luca can make a weapon out of it. She makes Wonder Shot for herself. It's pretty cool. And then Taban, her dad, will make some more stuff for her if you talk to him more times after that. So he will give you the sunglasses, which is a very funny name, but it's they boost damage for Luca. It's a equipment accessory. Okay, onward. The Ghost of Cyrus. This is fun.
Ruins.
So the ruins, there's a town called Chorus, Choras, Chorus, and that is another Greek word. It is from the Greek word choros, not chorus like a group of singers, but choros, meaning space or place. So I think of this as Cyrus's resting place, like a place for Cyrus. It's a very like kind of a humbling sort of thing. This whole town, you've never had any reason to go here before now, and it's just kind of this separate little place. It's the place where Cyrus is from. That's what this is. That's all it is. And I like that. It's very simple. It's not some grand, vision of anything. You go into the ruins, and there is a big suit of armor that will fight you. If you have Frog with you, then he will realize that it's Cyrus, and you can't damage him. They kind of have some recognition. The fight ends, and you have to figure out what to do. So, sort of elaborate, but you go back into the past. You get these carpenter guys or stonemasons or whatever. They're carpenters. Yeah, you get the tools for the guy from his own descendant in the future and take them back to him in the past, so he has tools that he can fix up the ruins and all this stuff. It's you pay him money to do the repairs. And there's actually several iterations of this. It's like, hey, give me another 2,000 gold, I'll go fix more stuff. Hey, 2,000 more gold once you clear out the monsters, I'll fix up more stuff. And so you can do quite a bit, and there's actually really, really good stuff in the ruins if you do all the repairs and do all the stuff. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm going to skip ahead slightly.
They reminded me of the carpenters from like Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Just like doing the weird stuff, and going to the Gerudo fortress and things like that.
I love that. I love that.
I imagine that.
I did not think of that, but that is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Hey, there's 4 identical apprentices for this guy. Like, he has a cadre of identical dudes that can go help him. There are more character models than that in this game. They could have done something else, but for some reason they chose to make them identical. It's pretty funny. So, you get Frog's best equipment doing this. We're going to talk about the dialogue and stuff in a second, but I just wanted to say about the equipment that you can get in the ruins. This also is your final opportunity for like a 680, 1080 upgrade thing where you can go in the future, open it with the, react to it in the past, go to the future, get the equipment, go back to the past, get the equipment again, but it's weaker. So you get 2 versions. And so, there's Nova armor, which will upgrade to the Moonbeam armor, which is super good. There's a sword for Chrono called the Onimaru, which will upgrade to a sword called the Suzaku. Suzaku is crazy because it does 4 times crit damage. So that's a lot of damage, crazy. And then Siren's Kiss will upgrade to the Valkyrie bow, which is, I think, the best crossbow for Marl. So all very important stuff. But after all these repairs, basically, you can get down to the basement and you can find the tombstone, the grave of Cyrus. So this is Frog's kind of resolution quest. And so it will say, here rests Cyrus, the fool who defied Magus. And I'm just going to read some dialogue. Frog will say, Cyrus, I have returned. I will fulfill that oath I swore so long ago and my final promise to you as well. And he lifts up the Masamune, and then Cyrus's spirit emerges. Let's see. Glenn, thank you for making the journey all this way. And this line in particular I wanted to hit on. Frog says, Cyrus, you must think ill of me, right? And it's, this whole time, Frog is still beating himself up about this stuff, right? He's still not over it. He's not able to go like we're gonna save the whole Earth from this giant space tick Cthulhu thing. It's he's stuck on this still. And so Cyrus responds, "Ha, you think overmuch. You've come far, my friend. I was never as fine a warrior as you are now. As Magus's fire consumed me, my heart burned with the thoughts of all I'd left unfinished and all I left behind. Magus, King Guardia, Queen Lean, and of course you, my dear good friend." And so his spirit does not stay for long. He says, but the skills you've honed over all this time are superior to any I could ever claim to know. I can rest now knowing that all will be made right by your hands. Farewell, my friend. And that's it. He disappears. Excuse me. He does say the queen look after the queen, and then he disappears. So excuse me. I misspoke. But then we get some other stuff. You have anything you want to jump in with before we just kind of move through the little stages here? Like, you look like you have something to say.
Oh, I just think it was I definitely really see a lot of myself in Frog too. I'm the kind of guy that would apologize at somebody's grave like that. Just like I did bad, and I have this is personal, but I've had lots of things in the past that have um I've come to terms with, but there's
Mhm.
still some things that I haven't, and I definitely feel like there's some little bit of a Frog kind of, I don't like feel meek and not courageous enough, but that's courage isn't an ability. It's the acceptance of responsibility. Um, and me being on this podcast is something that I'm doing to make myself better. I'm able to talk about things that I've experienced more. I'm sharing it with others. I'm sharing it with you, especially. And in fact, I really enjoy that there are other people who love games as much as us, but I do this because of you, Luke. And
Well, thanks, man.
you got to go from I'm not worthy to I must carry this. I choose to carry this. So I really love Frog, and I'm really glad that he found himself through all of this, just as I am.
Yeah, yeah, and because this is in some sense a shonen anime, right? Like it's not really, but it kind of is. We get some nice visual representation of this. And by the way, as for like you and I, like I couldn't think of a better person to share this podcast with. I think it's wonderful that we get a chance to do this. So it's a lot of fun, and I appreciate you being here. Um, because I couldn't do it by myself. Like I really couldn't. It needs to be a dialogue, and there needs to be other perspectives here, and I like your perspective, so it's good. Um, but the Masamune, the Masamune has made so many, like it's been referenced so many times in this game. There's lots of dialogue because there are of course characters that make up the Masamune blade and all of this. So Frog takes out the Masamune again, and it kind of lifts up and starts spinning. And then it separates back out into the two characters, Masa and Mune. And the characters, Masa and Mune, they say, all that emotional baggage was weighing you down. The hero's strength is strength of will. Can't very well save the world if you're dwelling on the past. Now you're truly strong. And so now they can use all of their power. So once again, the Masamune is now the best item, the best sword for Frog. It has been weaker, but now it is at its maximum strength. And, Frog takes it back, and he says it's pulsing with strength, and he swings it around and stuff. So we have the true form, Masamune. Super, super awesome. Absolutely love it. Frog's final words here, he says, I must go now, Cyrus, but I go to follow in your footsteps and see done all that you have wished. May your actions, excuse me, may my actions honor you. That's what he says. So super cool. That's a great little resolution to his tale. I absolutely love that. And this reminded me very much of one of my favorite quotes from Gurren Lagann. I swear I've watched other anime. I just really like that show. Okay. So, I mean, I've been watching anime forever, but there's a quote in, I think, episode 6 of Gurren Lagann. The character Kamina, he says, "You know why people have eyes in front? Because they have to move forward to see the landscape in the distance. If you had eyes in back, all you could see is your hometown getting farther away. You can't move forward like that. If your eyes are in front, what you see in the distance keeps getting closer. That's what lets people move forward," right? And so Frog has shifted his focus to the attainment of the ends that Cyrus was seeking himself, rather than looking back at the fact that Cyrus is not there to share it with him, right?
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, I love that. I love that line. I rewatched that episode several times just for that one little moment. And so, yeah, I freaking love it, man. The that is the conclusion of that quest. So we're almost done with our side quest. We have one more, and we're going to wrap it up, and we will finish out.
Rainbow Shell.
Yeah, the rainbow shell, right? Exactly. So this is a quest that again has been building for a long time. We had this explorer guy called Toma that we met a long time ago, and a mayor of poor village, I think, gives him this quest to find the rainbow shell, and he never does. So in that same town where we've been doing this stuff, you could do these simultaneously, the quest for Cyrus's ghost and also this one, but I wanted to break it up for the purposes of our notes. So Toma, in chorus in the past, he will give you some spirits, like some alcohol, that he wants to pour. He wants you to pour them out on his tombstone if he doesn't find the rainbow shell, if he doesn't make it, to kind of honor him. So you go back to 1000 AD using your handy time machine, and you pour out the spirits on his tombstone because there's a tombstone off on the side. It's very, very easy to find. It's not even a whole graveyard. They just have this whole thing for him, right? And so his ghost will come out of the ether, and his ghost will say, I figured out where the rainbow shell was. I just couldn't get it. So he tells you about this cave called the Giant's Claw, and you go there in 600 AD. And you'll even find some notes from Toma there in like the first room. But it's really cool because you go through that first room and then you enter into this area and you're like, wait a second. And it's Azala's throne. It's this same reptite base from 65 million BC. Oh. Perfectly preserved. I mean, not really. There's a lot of damage and stuff. But somebody in your party will make a comment about maybe it got pushed underground when the meteor impacted, which I find very unlikely. I think it would just get destroyed. But hey, you know what? It's a video game, and I'm not going to... Reptite engineering was something else, bro, So they made this super sick base that got pushed underground by a meteor. It's pretty sweet. So... the same awesome music plays in here. It's super cool. It's kind of fun to revisit this space. And in a sense, I guess it kind of gives you some more to Ayla's tale in a way because you're going back to this space. But you eventually fight a boss. It's the Rust Tyranno. It's the same huge T-Rex thing that Azala was riding on, only now it's kind of rust-colored for some reason. So whatever. Make of that what you will. You find the rainbow shell. It's freaking gigantic, and so you can't pick it up. Even if you have Robo in your party or whatever, you can't leave with it. So you ask the Castle Guardia staff to help you move it, and the shell will be preserved for future generations in the vault of the castle. And now we finally go back, and we finally get to resolve this kind of unfinished little thread from way back at the beginning of the game. Almost the very, very beginning. Yeah. It's so fun. So back in 1000 AD, you find out that the king has been arrested. He's on trial for selling royal treasures. Marl bursts onto the scene as the king is on trial for selling the rainbow shell. So the king says the chancellor is trying to frame him. The chancellor has you expelled, and it's very interesting. But the Ocean Palace theme plays here. I was like, I don't know why, other than it just sounds cool. But that happens. Then you realize that the shell should be here now, but that the chancellor shouldn't know that because you changed the past. I think that's kind of an interesting little, we're playing a little bit much with how timelines work kind of a thing. There's a whole new staircase to the basement that wasn't there in the original version of the castle. So you go do that and you go to get it and you find monsters, and it's just like the very beginning when you have the Manolia Cathedral and there's like these Naga purple snake characters that you fight and stuff. They're super weak. Right, but you do this whole thing, and there's a guard. You walk down into the basement and there's a guard that's like passed out or dying or whatever, and he says, "Ugh, a rat bit my toe." Like, okay. um I don't get, it's just funny.
Neosporin, buddy.
Yeah. Nah, nah, nah,
Pay
nah,
attention.
nah, nah, nah. Neo. Okay, so there's this fight some more of those monsters. You the monsters, some of them will have dialogue. They'll say that the boss is going to settle a 13 generation score today. And anyway, so you find eventually the rainbow shell, but there's a little cutaway scene. A merchant is testifying. He says, "Yes, I bought it from the king. I wasn't sure if I should, but, well, he looked so desperate for the money." And the king says, "Liar, I've never seen you before." And the merchant goes back to the chancellor and he's like, "Hey, was I convincing?" It's so obviously staged, right? And so you find the rainbow shell. There's a letter in it, or with it. Luca and Marl will examine. And then the letter says, "Dearest Marl, I know things are not easy with your father, but though it may be hard to realize now, know that you will ever be his daughter. Nothing can break the bonds of blood, neither distance nor words of anger. Some day you will leave the nest and have children of your own. Then you will understand the truth of what I say. Blood is the sap that flows through the limbs of a family tree. And come what may in future days, we will forever be joined by that." And that says from Queen Guardia the 21st, otherwise known as Queen Lean. So there you go. You discover this. You take a shard from the shell because you can't move it because it's still giant and heavy. And then you bust back into the scene. I love this.
God, yeah.
I love this moment, right? So that
He like
huge.
slowly pans up in the scene of the trial, and you get to see the stained glass.
Yes,
And
yes.
I had Marl burst through that
Absolutely.
like the first ray of sunshine.
I had her kind of she so the stained glass window is a statue of like this justice figure, right? Like with scales balancing, not statue, but it's a depiction of like a justice character. And so she stands inside or behind the spirit of justice, right? As she's like inhabiting or becoming the spirit of justice and then burst through it. And so it very good on the nose kind of symbolism there. So she explodes out, and then the chancellor can't win in court. So super ultra presto transformo, and it's Yakra again. Yakra the 13th. And you easily win. He's not hard at all. So now Marl and the king make up with one another, and this is a great scene. I mean, I know Marl is somebody that's been in your party basically the whole game, right? I love Marl as a character, so I specifically didn't use her much this playthrough because I wanted to try to get other perspectives on things, other characters. But it's great. It's a great little makeup because the last time we saw the king, like he's never wants her to return and all this stuff. So it's only through this kind of reconnection and you know rescuing the father from the belly of the whale, so to speak, right? It's only through this that you kind of get this resolution, and all the things work out as they should. Um, Comes to find out that the thing the chancellor said before about the king, not attending to Nadia, Marl's mother, Eliza is her name. That was fabricated. He was there with his wife in the final moments and all that. And I have all the dialogue, because I've been copying and pasting from the script, but I don't know that we necessarily have to read it. There is this great moment at the end where the king says, "You were so young, or you probably don't remember. You kept saying, 'Daddy, I love lots of people, lots and lots.' It reassured your mother seeing you so happy. She left with a smile on her face." And there's this little moment where she says, "I used to call you Daddy." And he says, "You did." And then they kind of embrace, and she says, "I'm sorry, Daddy, for everything." And so the king lets you leave. Everything's kind of restored, and all is well in this timeline again. So
You have to get the real chancellor out of the chest.
it's so good, man.
Just pops out.
I love that. Yeah, you get Yakra's key from, if you go back, you have to actually go all the way back up the stairs and go back to the room to get that key off the floor. But the one chest you haven't been able to open the whole game, it just says it's locked whenever you walk by it. It really makes me laugh because it's been locked the whole game, right? So this chancellor's been in that chest for months. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But he pops out. He said, "Oh, thank goodness. The beast locked me in here, and I've been trapped ever since." I imagine him having that voice. I don't know why. And he has to go off to prepare for the Moonlight Parade, whatever the hell that is. We will find out what that is, but you don't know right now. It's just next thing on his agenda. You can go to the basement, and you can find Pierre, the defense attorney that helped you when you were on trial, and you know he is kind of reconnected with the chancellor, and everything's back to the way it should be, right? There's everything seems to be working just fine. The sense of justice in the kingdom of Guardia has been restored. So you go back to, Melchior will appear. I forget exactly when, and he'll say, "Hey, I can make all kinds of cool stuff with the rainbow shell." So you go back into the basement, go to the rainbow shell. He'll make you 3 prismatic helms or 1 prismatic dress. What did you choose?
I chose the worst of the options. I chose the dress because I had the helms for everybody at that point that were like 50,000 a
Oh yeah,
piece,
yeah,
and they got rid of the status ailments, so I decided to go with the dress because I don't think I had anything specific for Marl at that time.
yeah. Well, I mean, that is actually a really good item for one female character. It's just like it's a question of, do you want to have the best item in that slot for one character, or really good helms for 3 characters, right? So I wouldn't say one is correct and one is wrong, but yeah. So
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking to do. And
well, good. I picked the helms, so we both did the 2 options, so that's good. And then if you've done the Sunstone quest also at this time, he will say, "Hey, I can also make more stuff," and then he'll make more stuff for you. So Prism Spectacles, which is another just damage booster. It'll just say greatly boosts damage. That's what the description is.
I think it's like 25% or something crazy.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good. That is an awesome item. And then Rainbow, which is a sword for Chrono. This is the best sword for Chrono. That has a 70% crit rate. So that's pretty sweet. My Chrono was doing like 980 damage in the final boss fight, just all the time because he's critting all the time. It's not the 4 times crit damage from the other sword, but his crit rate is so high, you have a really high chance of doing really good damage every time. And that's basically it. That's all the side questing to do prior to the end. I should mention there are green portals around the timelines. There's like 3 different green portals. Those are purely optional. There's not any really like big storyline stuff in there. It's kind of fun and interesting if you'd like to do that. I just don't feel like we need to cover it. The rewards are not particularly amazing or anything like that, so don't feel like you need to do that unless you are just a completionist. So the next thing we will do, we're way over time already. We're going to do the Black Omen, which there's not a whole lot to talk about in there, but you can go at any timeline that it's floating in the sky and go through that. Or you can just go straight, if you don't want to do that for some reason, you can just go straight to the bucket at the end of time and fight Lavos that way. But the goal, the objective is to go fight Lavos and prevent the end of humans and other life forms. And apparently gifting the world to robots in a roundabout way, right? So, but that's where we'll start. So the next episode, please play through the Black Omen if you choose to. But in any case, beat the game. You should get the good ending, the first good ending. All of the other endings we will talk about next episode. There are 13 of them. And I guess 14, really, sort of, kind of, if you include the bad ending, which is just you lose. So do as much of that as you'd like to do. The last ending, gosh, okay, how do I condense this? You're going to get an achievement if you're playing on Steam like we are. It's called Beyond Time. That is the good ending. There's a few variations to it. Different things can work different ways, but that is the ending you should get if you've been playing with us. And then there are, 2 through 12 numbered endings are all available in the New Game Plus. After you win, you save your game as an end game save. You can start a new game with your level and a lot of your equipment and stuff like that. Super awesome. And then you have to do some other things that are only available in New Game Plus. There's purple portals that will appear when you win. You have to do all of that to get ending number 13, which was added with the Nintendo DS, the Android, iOS, and the Windows versions of the game. So that did not exist in the original release. It's added later. So if you have time before next week to play the game all the way through again, then by all means. But we're going to probably touch on that just briefly because it is there to tie into Chrono Cross, the direct, well, sort of direct sequel to Chrono Trigger. And we're not going to play Chrono Cross to get ready for next episode, so we're not going to get real into that stuff. We'll talk about what it is, what happens, but I'm not going to exhaustively cover all the connections between the games. Corey's never played it. I have it. It's right over here somewhere. It's right there. Right, whatever. Right there. But I haven't played it in a long time. We're just not going to go there. So please understand. Maybe we'll play Chrono Cross in the future. You can vote and tell us. Get on Patreon if you want. So, anything else we need to say? Please go vote.
Please go vote.
Yeah.
Vote on the games then.
Right. Yes. Please go tell us which game to play. Like I say, right now, Golden Sun is winning. Golden Sun is not very long, so that game will not take us a long time. It is available on Nintendo Switch Online. So if you have a Nintendo Switch or Switch 2 and you're an NSO subscriber, you don't even have to do anything. You just can get on there and then just play it. So it'll be really easy to play along if you'd like to do that with us. It's a really, really wonderful special game, but it might not win. That is all up to you. You have the ability to change the future. Insert cheesy dialogue. All right, so I think that's all I have to say. Thank y'all for sticking around. This last episode will go, so episode 12 of our Chrono Trigger playthrough, it will go until we are done. It's going to potentially be super long. I don't know, but we will not wrap until we're done talking about Chrono Trigger. That will be the final episode. Yeah, we will be done. So, last thing I have to say, we developed an outro script. So, thanks so much for watching. Remember to find meaning in stories no matter what you may be going through. Do not give up. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.